Well, we are delving into politics today. No guest because I just wanted to kind of opine on some of the races that are happening today. Once again, I am not here to try to change anybody's minds. I've just had people ask me, who I'm supporting, who I'm voting for in certain races, so I will run down as many as I can. I did a little bit yesterday, but I only had a couple of minutes here and there, so I didn't really get to make all of the points that I wanted to make yesterday. So I wanted to do that because at the end of the day, when I agreed to come back and do this show, one of the stipulations is that I have opinions, and I want to give my opinions. Now, as I stated earlier this morning, and I've stated before, when we have elections coming up, I want to hear from all sides. And first of all, it's the law to give equal time to candidates, but I would do that even if it wasn't the law, because I truly want to understand every person running for office. And when candidates are in the studio, even if I know ahead of time that I may not agree with them, or maybe in some cases I don't like them, which is rare because most of these people I don't know personally, but I still let them talk about the things that they want to talk about. I ask them, okay, here's some topics that are of note in the state that are concerns. Tell me your opinion on this. But I don't try to do gotcha interviews because that's not my job when I'm interviewing a candidate, and I want to be fair. However, when it's just me talking and giving my opinion, that's a different situation. So I'm not going to do it with a candidate in here. I just don't believe in doing that. But I do have opinions. And now there's a few races in the state that I don't have strong opinions on just because, like a lot of us, maybe I'm not as informed about some of these people running for office. I think I'm more informed than maybe the average person out there, but it takes a lot of work to drag up information on people in some of these races. It is a loaded primary, especially if you're a Republican. Now, if you're a Democrat, there's only a few things that you're going to be voting on today. Now, there is a Democratic primary for governor, and it's a 3-person race. It's Cindy Munson, who's been a frequent contributor to this show. Hasn't been able to do that because of equal time considerations lately, but she is the front runner on the Democratic side. But Connie Johnson, who's been a former state senator and has run for office numerous times, is also in it. And then some dude named Arya, only has one name, Arya, is running for governor. All we know is that he paid his $1,000 to get his name on the ballot, but we really don't know what his platform is. He doesn't really have a website. He hasn't answered anybody's phone calls. And we have some Republicans that are like that, too. Caleb Anthony Taylor, Jennifer Domenico, Kenneth Sturgill, maybe a little bit less so than those two, and Lisa Mitchell Haynes. Reached out to all of them. The only one that got back with me was Lisa Mitchell Haynes, and it was about a month after I emailed her, and she said, well, I'll try to get back to her. I did a little background information on her. I guess at one point she was a city manager in Mangum, but there was some issue about a city vehicle that she didn't stay there very long. I don't know if there was anything nefarious or whatever, but the only other thing I know about Lisa Mitchell Haynes is that she said angels told her to run for governor. Okay, that's fine. But Caleb Anthony Taylor, Jennifer Domenico, Kenneth Sturgill, do you have an extra $1,000 that you can just waste? I don't understand that. Yes, it takes money to run for office, and I hate that there's so much money involved, dark money and PACs and all of that. However, you can still go door to door and ask people for money. You can campaign. You can ask people for their votes that way. But I don't think those people are doing anything. It's just like an ego thing. Maybe they're narcissists. They just want their name on the ballot to show their friends. Well, I don't have $1,000 to do that, and that's not something I ever care about doing. Once again, I state right here, I have no intention of ever running for office, so I don't have to be careful about what I say if I offend some people, because I'm never going to run for office. I appreciate the people that do that, but unfortunately, I think a lot of times you can't be your real self when you run for office. You have to put a little bit of a shield up and maybe not always say what's on your true heart. I'm not saying all politicians are like that, but you just have to play the game, and I don't like the game of politics. I'm fascinated by it. I follow it, but it's just not something I ever want to do. So anyway, that's the governor's thing. As I told you, haven't been very impressed with the list of candidates. One of the things that bothers me about the candidates running for governor is, and all the dirty ads going around and all the mailers is who is the most MAGA, okay? The state of Oklahoma is sovereign in many ways. Obviously, we have to defer to the federal government for many things, but, I think most of us listening to this radio station voted for Donald Trump. I've told you a million times, this last time, he wasn't my first choice. I was a Ron DeSantis guy. One of the reasons is we already had a Trump presidency, and then we had, the election that there was some funny business going on, but at the end of the day, he wasn't the last president. It was Joe Biden. And then Biden was going to run, and then Kamala Harris was thrown into the seat. And they were both idiots, and I don't agree with them at all. So when it became clear that Donald Trump was going to be the nominee, I got behind him. I don't hate Donald Trump, but he embarrasses me, and I don't agree with him on many policies. But that's just me. Some folks out there just stand on every word he says, and whatever Trump says or does, it's Bible, it's the law. Well, I'm just not that way, because I find things that I agree with the president on. I find things that I disagree with the president on. But I support him when he needs to be supported on issues I care about. But I'm not afraid to say I disagree with him when I don't. And that's my problem when you're running for governor of the state of Oklahoma and you just try to say, I'm more MAGA than you. I stand with Trump on this, no matter what. Trump endorsed me. Trump's my friend. Trump loves me more than others. But that's one thing. But then to say your opponents are trans allies, liberals, Hillary lovers, Obama lovers, it's just ridiculous, because we know that's not true. There's only one for sure Democrat that I know that is running as a Republican for governor, and that's Gentner Drummond, because he was registered as a Democrat for many, many years and did give money to Democratic candidates. Doesn't mean he's evil, and he's done many conservative things as well, but I just don't trust people that do that. It's like when Joy Hoffmeister was superintendent of schools. She was a lifelong Democrat, and then she changed parties to run as a Republican because she knew that was the only way she could get elected as state superintendent of schools. And then she was state superintendent when COVID happened, and she wanted all the schools to be shut down. Fortunately, her own state school board said, no, let's leave it up to individual schools to make those decisions. She got mad about that, but then she also got mad at the governor, and so she showed her true stripes. She changed her registration back to Democrat, where it had been before, and she ran for governor, and she got smoked. Okay? I just don't like people. Now, I don't have a problem if people have changes of hearts, and, a lot of people, when they're younger, are more liberal. They're registered as Democrats. I was at one time. As you get older, you get more conservative because you get smarter. And so you register as Republicans. But you're able to change your mind. But if you just do it for political reasons because you think that's the only way you can get elected, I just have a real problem with that. And so that's why I'm not a super fan of Gentner Drummond. There's also a few things that he's done that I don't agree with. As I mentioned yesterday, I thought Mike Mazzei sounded pretty good on several topics. But then at the debate in Lawton a couple of weeks ago, he was asked a question about funding for the OETA, which, by the way, I'm not in favor of. I'm sorry. I'm just not in favor of state funding for the OETA. It's not that they're evil. They're not horrible. But that model doesn't have to exist anymore. Okay. And I don't want to hear about emergency broadcasts. That's crap. Everybody gets alerts on their phone, radio, and everything. We don't need public television stations to give us tornado warnings. People watch David Payne anyway, and everybody has an app on their phone. So that's just a stupid argument. Okay. But, you know, big bird, no big bird. I just don't think the state needs to spend money on them. Just my opinion. That's what the question was. But Mike Mazzei turned it into, he thought they were asking about the Oklahoma Education Association, the teachers union. But the way he answered the question, he wasn't talking about teachers unions. He said every superintendent of the state is a communist socialist. And then he went on to say that he thought the problem was that we had too many school districts, which, you know, I sometimes agree with that in spots, but I do believe in local control as well. But he also said that school board races should be partisan. You should have to declare if you're a Republican, Democrat, or an independent, and it should be in the general election. Now, I tend to agree with that. I think it's stupid that we have races that are partisan, like county commissioner and sheriff and stuff like that. But if we're going to do that, why don't we instead also do that for city elections and school board elections? Because I guarantee you this, the majority of school board members, and this doesn't mean they're bad people, okay? But the majority of school board members, even here in Western Oklahoma, probably lean more Democrat or even registered as Democrats. But you'll never know because we don't have that. But that doesn't make them communists and socialists, and it certainly doesn't make the superintendents socialists or communists, because most of the superintendents around here I know personally, and they're conservative. Now, they may not agree with every single thing that Donald Trump or Governor Stitt does, but they're not communists and socialists. So to me, that was a deal breaker for Mike Mazzei. And then, you know, one honest thing that we actually got from Gentner Drummond when I was interviewing him is I asked him about most of the candidates saying that they want to eliminate state income tax and property tax. And he said that's just playing politics because it's never going to happen. Well, guess what? I tend to agree with him. I wish we didn't have a state income tax. I wish we didn't have property tax. I wish we could get some relief. But how realistic is it for our state to do away with both of those? I just, not the way our budget is right now. Now, should we cut the state budget? Absolutely. It's one of the things that I agree with the folks that are in the Freedom Caucus, you know, and there's Senate races that are very big in our state. People trying to get more Freedom Caucus members in there. I agree with them on things like taxes and cutting government spending. I don't necessarily agree with them on other things. But what is our plan? If our plan is to replace it with a consumption tax, where it's basically just a sales tax on everything, but yet the current sales tax we have is not enough, so you have to raise the sales tax. So are you going to pay 30, 40 cents out of every dollar at the grocery store to fund state government? Because do you really believe that government spending would be cut in half in our state? I just don't think it would. So that's just one of the silly arguments about that. So I've decided I'm going for Chip Keating. Don't love the nepotism angle that his dad was a governor before, because we saw that with the Bushes in the White House, right? But, you know, hey, don't think he's a bad guy. I wish he wouldn't tout so much that he was a state trooper, because I think he did that for a year and a half. You know, and I also don't like one of the ads where he says, we're building the Trump Energy Center. It's just like, try to win on your own without Trump's name. Okay. That's the governor's race. Same thing happening in the attorney general's race. We talked about that yesterday. State treasurer's race. We have Todd Russ from Cordell, who is the current treasurer. He's under a little scrutiny for possibly using a state vehicle for personal trips, parking, driving from Oklahoma City in the treasurer's vehicle, parking at the Clinton office, and then driving home to Cordell. It's not a great look. I'm sure there's many other officials that do the same kind of things, but he deserves to have some scrutiny for that. But he's done some great stuff, like trying to, de-invest from ESG funds and things like that. So I agree with him on that. But he is a former legislator. That term limited out and chose to run for another office. Not always my favorite thing. But then you've got Cindy Byrd, who I think has done a great job as auditor, but she's been in state government for going on 30 years now. And she was the assistant to the previous auditor. Now she's been the auditor, and now her term is up, and she was going to run for lieutenant governor. But then when she found out that T.W. Shannon was putting his name in the hat and was endorsed by Trump at the last minute, she changed to run for state treasurer. And I'm just like, Cindy, you've done a great job serving the state, not angry at you, but can't you just be satisfied and finish out your term as auditor and be done with politics? I just don't understand that. So I'm going for Todd this time. I'm going to give him another chance. Okay. We talked about superintendent of public instruction. Adam Pugh found out yesterday he's not term limited in the Senate, but he's running for state superintendent of public instruction. It's probably going to come down to him and Robert Franklin. Robert Franklin isn't a fan of the third grade retention for reading scores, so that's why he's probably not the guy I would pull for. Insurance commissioner. I hate this race because insurance is screwed up in our state, and there's probably many reasons. We have lawsuits against State Farm and others, but we have some of the highest rates in the nation for home insurance and car insurance. But we have 4 people that work in the insurance industry that are running for that office. And people say, well, you need to understand the industry to be the commissioner. Or would it be better to have an outside person? Because if you've been an insurance agent all your life and you've relied on premiums, which, if the premiums are higher, your commission is higher. Are you really going to be for lowering those rates? I just don't know. But the only one I really know anything about, because he's been, running ads, is Marty Quinn. I guess that's going to be who I vote for, but he's another former insurance guy. I don't know. We'll take a break, back with a few more thoughts right after this.
State Question 832 will raise prices on all Oklahomans. It even puts woke liberal politicians from New York and San Francisco in control of Oklahoma's minimum wage, crushing local small business, while big national corporations replace hardworking Oklahomans with automation and AI. 832 even hurts farmers and ranchers by removing long-standing protections for family farms. But you have the power to protect Oklahomans' futures by voting no on State Question 832.
Authorized and paid for by OCPA.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love with no artificial sweeteners, only 30 calories, just 5 grams of sugar, and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. That great Pepsi taste with even more to love. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
And all Pepsi products are brought to you locally, as always, by the Nicholson family at Pepsi in Clinton.
Over 20,000 square feet of furniture and appliances at Todd Fest. David.
Harold, we are the one-stop shop. Literally, we have mattresses, furniture, and appliances. We've been here 80 years, and the reason we're here is because we service people after the sale.
A big tradition going on at Todd Fest for 80 years, folks. Shop at Todd Fest for all your furniture and appliances. Todd Fest, the best in quality, service, and price. Main corner, downtown Weatherford.
Hey guys, I'm Kelly Ripito with Exploration Realty. I'm a wife and a mother of 2 children. We own a family farm. We are avid hunters, farmers, and ranchers. So I have the knowledge, the skills, and the resources to sell land in Oklahoma. I specialize in listings. I can do anything from land to residential or commercial, Kelly Ripito, 580-821-0934.
Running for Oklahoma governor ain't supposed to be easy. You gotta be tough. So Mike Mazzei's whining and crying as we learn about his liberal record? Tough luck, Mikey. See, while President Trump crushed the woke left, Mike Mazzei allowed transgender surgeries in Oklahoma. That's right. Mazzei voted to allow a taxpayer-funded hospital to hide children undergoing radical gender reassignment treatments, sex changes that transitioned boys into girls and girls into boys. But that's not all. Trump's MAGA movement would have been crushed by Hillary Clinton if Mike Mazzei got his way. Mazzei voted to remove Oklahoma from the Electoral College, going to a national popular vote that would have rigged the system for crooked Hillary Clinton.
Thanks, Mike Mazzei, for trying so close.
A transgender ally endangering our kids, a Clinton lover and Trump hater, MAGA phony Mike Mazzei, woke, radical, and just too liberal for Oklahoma. Paid for by Make Oklahoma Great Again, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. 601 South Boulder Avenue, Suite 610, Tulsa, Oklahoma 74119, 918-947-9459.
7:32 Election Day. Polls are open. Some other races of note around western Oklahoma. Senate District 36. Now, that includes Beckham, Washita, Kiowa, parts of Greer, Harmon, Jackson, and Tillman County. And so I know when I'm down in Cordell, I see a few signs for that. That was a three-person race between Rick Vernon, Barry Christian, and Joe Buchanan. If you remember, Barry Christian, a businessman in Sayre, was found dead out in a rural area about, I think it was the 1st of May. He was missing for a few days, and a really sad situation out there. The OSBI is still investigating it. We don't know if it's suicide, homicide, but very odd that one of the three candidates is no longer with us. So his name is still on the ballot today, but if you vote for Barry Christian, obviously he can't serve. So you've got Rick Vernon, who is an OSU grad. He used to be the chairman of the Altus Chamber of Commerce. He's an attorney in Altus, and he's running against a guy named Joe Buchanan, who is I believe he's a firefighter. And so anyway, he's another Altus guy. And, both of these guys billing themselves as conservatives, which I'm sure they are. Really didn't get a chance to talk to either of these guys. I think Rick Vernon is probably getting a little more of a push because Governor Stitt has endorsed him. I know Brent Howard, who is in the seat right now, has also endorsed him. So if I had to pick somebody, I know Brent Howard, I would probably pick Rick Vernon. I can't vote in that race. And, of course, we talked a little bit yesterday about State Senate District 26, which includes Custer County, Caddo County, Kingfisher County, Blaine County, and Canadian County. You have three good candidates. You have Rick Cook, Jessica Weingart, and Brady Butler. Nobody running on the Democratic side, just like Senate District 38. So whoever wins with a majority, 50+1 tonight, or if we go to a runoff, whoever wins on August 25th will be the next senator. Of course, this is the seat held by Darcy Yeck, who is term limited. So I mentioned yesterday, personally, I'm going to vote for Rick Cook. I just think that his life experience and being a businessman would show that he would be a good steward of state funds, because I think if you understand running a business, you can understand, how to run government. Now, there's a learning curve, but he's been very involved in the political scene. I know he's pushed for legislation over the years, as a lot of other folks have, so he knows a little bit how it works. I think Jessica Weingart's a fine young lady. She's been on the school board in Calumet. I think that she will probably run again down the road, and she might surprise people today. I mean, she does have some big support out there from like AFR and some other organizations out there. I know she cares about agricultural issues, especially, and schools, very important to her. And then we have Brady Butler, who almost beat Darcy Yeck 4 years ago after, we had kind of the district makeup changing. But he is running this time, and I think Brady's a great guy too, and I agree with him on many issues, but his biggest reason for running is because he wants to give the Freedom Caucus more seats in the Senate so they can change the leadership. They're not happy with Senator Lonnie Paxton, and I don't know that Lonnie Paxton is the greatest leader in the Senate at all. I know a couple of years ago, I think it came down to like one vote, whether he was going to be the leader or not. But Brady's big passion is changing the rules of the Senate to where every senator gets legislation heard. Okay, and that sounds good on surface because there are senators and even state representatives in the other chamber that push for legislation and they don't get out of committee or they're sometimes not ever heard. But part of being in the Senate and being with the House is being able to work with others. And by the way, you're the ones that elect the leadership. You're the ones that vote on the rules. And there's just not enough members of the Freedom Caucus to probably change that outcome, even if Brady Butler wins. And my fear of Brady wins, and I wouldn't be upset if he did, but I would just feel like he wouldn't be able to get any bills heard because he would come in and already be an enemy of leaders and chairmen in the Senate. I don't think he would get enough support to do what he wants. And then the other thing, the Freedom Caucus, I agree with them on a lot of things, states' rights and things like that. But some of the other things that have been hot button issues, I know his friend Dusty Devers, put out a bill to outlaw no-fault divorce. Really? Is that a big issue? In other words, you can only get divorced in the state of Oklahoma if you can prove abuse or cheating. I mean, I hate that people get divorced, but do we really need to legislate that you just can't have an agreeable divorce, no fault, you just cite irreconcilable differences? Is that a really big deal? And then the other thing that they want to do, they're not happy with the abortion rules and laws that we have in the state of Oklahoma. I was very happy that Roe versus Wade was overturned. And I know, Brady put some posts from Jessica Weingart from 2022 where she said that she was shocked and saddened that Roe v. Wade was overturned. I also don't think she really understood because all overturning Roe versus Wade did was turn it over to the states. Okay, and states got to decide whether abortion was legal or not. We're a conservative state, so we made abortion illegal. We also outlawed the abortion pill. But that's not good enough for Dusty Devers and Brady and some of these other guys. They call themselves abortion abolitionists, where they want to send women to prison, charge them with first-degree murder if they go to another state to have an abortion or try to order pills from out of state. And to me, that just seems a little extreme. Abortion is already illegal in the state. The abortion pill is illegal in the state. I am absolutely anti-abortion. And I've been hit personally, by tragedy. When we've had 3 miscarriages. Only reason we have one son is because we lost 3 other babies. Life is precious. And any abortion at any stage is taking a life. I absolutely agree with that. I just don't know what the answer is, locking people up, and so how far do we need to go on abortion laws? Now, you may completely disagree with my stance on that, but it's just not the biggest issue to me anymore. I got what I wanted. Roe versus Wade was overturned, so abortion is illegal in Oklahoma. I'm fine with that. So, but that's where I just think the Freedom Caucus gets too mired in one or two issues, and it stops them from focusing on other legislation that could really help people in the state. So that's just my fear. I like Brady a lot, and I agree with him on a lot of issues, but I'm just afraid he gets up there, and he will be having the same thing happen to him that happened to his buddy Dusty Devers. He won't get legislation out of committee. It won't get heard. He won't get enough votes to change the rules. It just won't happen. I mean, there's only like 8 guys in the Freedom Caucus right now. 2 of them are already going out, and one of them that's in there right now, Dusty Devers, has 2 challengers in the primary down in Elgin and Lawton today. He may not make it out. So, who's to say if Brady wins and then, one of his compadres is defeated? So, and I just think Rick is the more level-headed of all of the candidates just because of his age and experience and business background. And you know what's funny? The only people that say they don't like Rick Cook, they're just mad because he's a successful businessman. Why are you mad because somebody built successful businesses from the ground up? He has added to our tax base here with Lucille's and ASAP and all those things. Do I agree with everything he's ever done? Probably not, but he's never really made me mad. Why would I be mad for somebody having a successful business? So that's just one of the things that I don't understand when people like, oh, we don't like him because he's a rich businessman. Well, gosh, I'm sorry if we're going to penalize people for having success. So I just think that's a lame reason for people not to vote. Now, if you don't like him personally, you don't agree with his policies, then that's fine. Once again, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind today. I'm just giving my opinion on these races because I haven't really been able to speak out on this very much. But at the end of the day, I respect everybody that put their name in the hat, except for the ones that didn't campaign at all, that just paid money to get their name on the ballot. If you don't want to campaign at all, then you have no business running. It's just stupid. Get out there, knock on doors, and talk to people if you're truly serious about campaigning. And the fact that some of these people out here had a chance to talk on the radio for free, and they chose not to do it. We have the assessor's race in Ouachita County. The current guy is suing the county, whether you agree with that or don't agree with that. But his opponent is the son of the county clerk, and he didn't even want to come on the radio and to talk about why he's running. Not saying you shouldn't vote for him because of that, but it's just weird. So, but that's a very interesting race to me happening down in Ouachita County. So we'll follow that as well. But anyway, I'm out of time.